Hello everyone and welcome back to this FM experiment with SC United of Manchester, where we give them £1 billion in the bank and let them see what they can do with all that cash available. Now, last time we left off in this experiment, at the end of part 2, we saw that they finally had managed to get their act together and get up the Football League, become a professional club and establish themselves in League One as well. Now their transfer spending had been pretty poor up to this point. They still have a fair amount of cash in the bank, over £600 million available, and I'm a little bit curious to see how they will get going on forward. We've got another sort of 10 years to go through now, I think. I'll see how far it's worth going and then call it quits when I think the club's gone as far as it can go. I think this will also be the last episode that we do. We'll just have a quick look at the competitions they've won up to this point, and as you can see, the Vanarama National League was the last big thing that they won. They haven't won anything since then. The FA Trophy, the only other major competition, and the Vanarama National League North as well. But those are the only real competitions they've actually managed to win. There are other promotions coming in 4th place in Sky Bet League 2, and then finishing 18th, 20th and 11th in the league since then. I think now that they're an established League 1 team, they should start spending a bit more cash. I've not made any more changes to the database because I want to keep this experiment pure and see where the ceiling is for a non-league club being given all this cash. So let's go forward in time now, see where they are, see how they've got on and see if they've gone bankrupt. Well, as you can see, we have gone forward in time quite some time. So far, in fact, that Virgil van Dijk is now the manager of FC United of Manchester. And the really interesting thing jumping out at me is that they have become a Premier League club. They've twice been relegated from the Premier League, which is just so unlucky that they've got that high and not been able to maintain their position. Now, when we left off, they were still in League One. I think we were around 29-30, and they were just finished their 3rd season in League One. They then had another couple, but rose up from 10th to 4th before finally winning League One in 1st place, getting into the Championship and immediately finishing 24th and getting relegated. They then managed to go up again through the playoffs, finishing 6th, and then finishing as high as 7th in the Championship at the first time of asking, dropping down to 17th, back up in 4th in the playoff positions, 11th the season after that, before finally going up through the playoffs in 4th place. A long stint there in the Championship, relegated in 19th place a year after that, 5th in the Championship, then going up in 2nd place again before getting relegated in 18th place. They finished 11th, it seems, this season as well in the Championship, which isn't ideal. But let's just take a quick look at their finances and see how they're doing. If we have a look at the club details, you will see they've spent half the money they had when we left off last time. They're now down to £320 million. If we have a look at their facilities, you'll see they've now got 15,000-seater stadium, state-of-the-art training facilities, top youth facilities, number 1 youth level. So they have been investing in the club. Maybe their stadium could do with another little rebuild. It was built in 2015. They could certainly do with just buying a new one. Especially when they've got £300 million in the bank. But at the moment they are still rising, which is interesting to see. And I imagine they will be spending more and more money if they get into the Premier League. But with only £300 million in the bank, it's not actually that much compared to the behemoths that you have like Arsenal, Man City and Manchester United when it comes to money. So I don't think they'll be moving on any higher than the Premier League. I think they'll probably get to sort of top 10, and that would be the roof for them, because they're income will not be matching their expenditure by any means, so they could end up just dropping into Championship obscurity if they don't get that together. Which is why building a new stadium would be so essential for them. But if they don't have the fan base, they can't really do that. Now let's have a look at their transfers, which is the big thing that we're interested in. If we have a look at their transfer history, you'll see that they haven't actually spent any money this season, just 700k. They actually had £8.75 million leave the club. Munoz going to Swansea. That looked like a bit of a steal for Swansea, really. Season before that, they spent £84 million. Now that is a transfer outlay. The biggest one, Tristan Baker from Cardiff. He cost an awful lot of money, still at the club. he's done reasonably well as well. 20 goals in 38 games in the Premier League. That's not bad at all. I can't believe they got relegated with that many games played. That's quite impressive, really. Other players they brought in, up to £28 million on Mitchell Abbott, still at the club as well. So these are expensive signings they've not been able to get rid of. Rob Perkins, another big purchase coming in. Yasuda from Dynamo Kiev, he's still at the team as well at right back. So these are players that have stayed in a whole season and still they've not managed to get out of their position in the Championship with this team. All of them seem like they're still here as well. So this £84 million outlay has done absolutely nothing for them. Pedro, right wing, still there. So they've brought in all these players. They're all still there and they can't get out of the Championship. That's somewhat embarrassing in terms of a transfer policy. And the year before that, they spent £99 million. £32 million went out, most of it on Ray Hunt to Cardiff, who's still there now. But if we have a look, £38 to £47 million for Jeremy Sinnott, a centre-back who's only worth 16 and a bit now. He's not had the best time either, just 6.73. And that's in the Championship. They paid £47 million for a player when they're in the Championship. He played 38 games in the Premier League, but they were very poor performances by all accounts. £23 million on Vega, we're up to 33.5. He's still at the club as well. £23 million transfer, and he barely even played in the Championship for them. This is some awful transfer policy, I think I have to say. Petrovic also still at the club, a big transfer outlay, not doing anything for them. A really poor performance in the Premier League, despite £9 million being spent on him. £99 million spent in the Championship, just 7.25 the year before that, so they really loosened the purse strings the next season. Losing a few players as well, Frank Madsen going for 14.25, he's now at Marseille, skipping around a little bit. Go over again, £63 million spent this season, around the £50 million payer mark. Ray Hunt, one of the players they brought in while they were in the Premier League. I think this was their first stint in the Premier League this season when they spent £63 million. Calvin Stokes still at the club as well on the left wing, playing quite regularly but not very well. And then Zelenika, who is a central midfielder. He looks like a decent central midfielder, but he's not performing at all. Even in the Championship, he's not performing. So very interesting. It looks like it's poor transfers rather than a lack of spending that's doing the damage for them. £29 million spent that season, 16 the year before that, and £78 million the season before that after spending nothing the year before. Frank Madsen from Liverpool, the big transfer, he went for 17.25. He's been around a little while before moving to United for a little bit of a loss, actually, but they spent all this money while they were in the Championship, 78 million quid. An awful lot of money to spend and no major results coming out of it either. This guy from West Ham had cost £11 million now at Zenit St. Petersburg. Spent a decent time at the club in the Championship and Premier League. So they've definitely been spending the cash. They've just been spending it in the worst possible way, as far as I can tell. If we have a quick look at their senior squad and maybe judge them on their general info and valuation, you can see none of them have really retained their value. Tristan Baker, unhappy at the club because they're in the Championship. He looks like a very good striker. I know I've got the massed attributes on, which is quite annoying. If I just go to start editing, we can see what his real stats are, and they're still pretty decent stats. Certainly his fitness looks very, very good. He's got all the physical stats you could ask for. 15 finishing, 15 first touch, very good as well. And his heading and passing all up there. There's no reason why he isn't doing better than he is. 20 goals in 38 games in the Premier League. I'm surprised they've managed to hang on to him. He's even got a cap for England. He's now 30 years old. But he really should be doing better than he is. Jeremy Sinnott as well at centre-back. He's never been capped for England. But £47 million signing is absolutely crazy, given his valuation's dropped to 16.25 million. Themba, a South African player, he came in from Spurs, it looks like, for £14.25 million, and actually has done reasonably well, certainly in the Championship done reasonably well, but not that well in the Premier League. So they've got a decent squad, a squad that should really be getting out the championship as far as I can tell, but they've got a lot of players under bids who are probably going to leave this summer, which is just unusual. I don't really understand their transfer policy whatsoever. Some years they're spending a fortune, other years they're spending nothing at all. Worth noting though, they've won the FA Cup. When did they win the FA Cup? This was won, if we have a look at the past winners, in 42-43 they managed to beat Stoke in the final to win the FA Cup. So that is probably the crowning glory, the peak of FC United of Manchester winning the FA Cup a couple of years ago. That is quite impressive. They still are counted as a rich club, but they are in the Championship, so that's not a big surprise. And I think that probably will be it for this experiment, to be honest. There's not a lot else I'm that interested in taking a look at. I think the non-league clubs do tend to hit a wall, regardless of what you do, and a big factor in that is reputation. They can't bring in the best players with such a low reputation. If we have a look at their club details, you can see it's only 6576 and it's got a maximum value of 10,000. Winning the FA Cup will have done a huge benefit to them. But you can see even their club attendance is still quite poor, just 12,000 fans turning out. And they're a long way off getting to that sort of 9,000 reputation that would really allow them to sign anybody they like. And I don't think they'll do it before they run out of their £1 billion of cash. So I'm not thinking of doing another episode of this experiment, but let me know in the comments if you would like to see more from this one. Otherwise, I have got another experiment lined up which will be dropping in a few days time, so make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to see how that experiment goes, and drop a like on this video if you've enjoyed this experiment up to now. But until next time, see ya.